Usually when I can't think of a word, I do this. I'm like, A, no, B, beneficial. It was, see? So it was more beneficial, right? Like, and nope, that's not the word.
It's like,
Do a thesaurus word search for beneficial.
beneficial, okay. This is great. I might open the whole interview with this. Because this is like two English people
Right. Can't.
try to understand how to speak.
Right.
Like,
Well,
really
there's just like,
beneficial.
this is the thing, there's a word for everything. My thesis is that pop culture, how should I say this? Like there is a clear intersection between pop culture and empathy. Like we as human beings should want, I believe, to be empathetic towards one another, to understand and to feel empathy. And it is becoming more and more difficult for us to do that. And I think the last place that anyone would think to look is pop culture. And I think it's the first place to look. Like, it's popular culture, which means that our values, the majority of us feel like this is what I want to see on TV. This is what's important to me, like this music, like this song, this TV show, like this commercial, like it's popularized because people are attracted to it. So that must say a lot about us. You know, like why are love songs the most popular things? You know, why does everyone watch Scandal? Why, you know, like what is it about right? What is it about Scandal that makes us watch it, right? What is it about reality TV that makes us so addicted to it? Why is reality television like the most popular genre of television that exists? Is that because like we're all wanting to know what is real versus what is not real? And so in our own lives, we're like, yes, I want to know what's behind the scenes. I want to know what's happening in other people's lives because I'm looking for empathy. I'm looking to know if what I think and what I feel is also the same thing that other people are thinking and feeling.
Yeah, like,
So the company that I have, we've been making Warhol work since 2009, and many people are often asking me like, "Are you doing another Warhol project? Are you doing another Warhol project?" So, titling this one "Another Fucking Warhol Production" has just seemed to be appropriate. It is based on a sort of rumor that SNL, Saturday Night Live, had this episode called the Love Episode. And it is an episode where all of the skits were themed on this idea of love. And that the musical guest for that show would be Kanye West. And that they would also invite the New York City Ballet to help sort of explain the abstraction and sort of like hard to tackle idea of love. I think just saying that out loud, you can tell why this rumored episode never happened. But that is sort of fodder for a company like mine where we're like, what? Like something's been undone, something's been like lost. Like, let's figure it out, let's find it. I am obsessed with Andy Warhol. I feel that pop culture will never be the same. Like since his reign in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like pop culture just completely changed. I sort of believe that like if Andy Warhol were alive, he would have created Facebook and Instagram. Like it just in Snapchat, like it just falls into his lineage of pop culture and the self-made individual, like 15 minutes of fame, like the self-as celebrity. And those also seem to be themes for me that help me realize my place in the world. Like who's creating me? Is it culture, like art and television and TV? That's art, television, movies, books that's creating me, or am I the thing that creates television, books, media? So that kind of question I'm always asking myself, I ask of the people that I'm around. And so that's why it falls under it being like a Warhol production. especially now with SNL being this thing that's completely related to it's pop culture and entertainment and also like very political.
Yeah.
It is like people it's the same as the news, you know, like it's the same thing. I don't remember there being a very specific moment, but I do remember in college reading The Self-Made Man, like Benjamin Franklin in English, like The Self-Made Man, and I somehow was reading it, and I watch a lot of television, and I like Interview Magazine, and I knew who Andy Warhol was, and somehow as I was reading about Benjamin Franklin, like making himself like rags to riches, I was like, I feel like this is also like Andy Warhol's story, and I became like fascinated with like the self-made man as like Benjamin Franklin and Andy Warhol. Like, how are these two people similar? And that kind of like brought me into Andy Warhol, like to look at him more closely. And then it was an avalanche after that. I started realizing that a lot of my ideas and philosophy on being an interest were aligned with Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've gotta go deeper into this. And I also felt that people saw Andy Warhol as, or see Andy Warhol as very superficial and completely one-sided and all pop culture and no like theory or philosophy or like nothing deeper than like images. And as I read more and more, I'm like, this guy was really smart. This guy was thinking a lot. And I kind of like want to make a case for him. Like with my work, I'm like, I want people to see like there was a darker side, there was a thoughtful side, there was a man who was dealing with identity, there was a man who was dealing with like what it means to be an American, there was a man who was an advocate for both queer people, an advocate for minorities, and was also like making money and like being a consumerist and also like partying and also like very flippant, like all of that at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's complicated. He is a person to study, not just a person like an icon that just gets labeled. And I feel like that's an important thing to me. I'd want to like do it. I would want to do a walking and or Uber tour. I'd want Andy and I to do like an Uber tour together of like his spots.
He's like showing you it.
Yeah, like I would want Andy to do like a My Favorite Things tour with me via Uber or Lyft or something, where he's like, I like love Mr. Chow, and we went there, and like here's Studio 54, and like here's like this Harlem club I went to, and like sometimes I got Skittles here, and like this is where I got candy, and like this is where my first like factory was, and this is where my print shop was. Like I would just want to do a tour, a BuzzFeed 30 Reasons to Love Andy tour. 25 Cats Named Sam and One Blue Pussy, which was the name of a cartoon book that Andy Warhol and his mother illustrated together. And I made this solo called 25 Cats Named Sam and One Blue Pussy, or Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, or How Can You Dance When Every 7 minutes Human Conversation Lapses into Silence. And that was like the first solo that I made, where I was trying to figure out how both visual art and movement, particularly it's like Andy Warhol visual art and his way of making work, how that might translate into movement. So it's like a movement research piece, and also like an aesthetics search piece. And that was in 2008, 2009. And then same year, I made this piece called Fan Mail, which was a duet between me and this dancer, Christiana Axelson. And that was just also like, what is it like to play with some of these Warholian ideas as dance theater? And then I wanted to do something bigger. And that's when Drella came, where I saw these pictures of Andy Warhol in drag taken by Christopher Makos. And there was this character that had two names. Like Lady Warhol was what Christopher Makos called it, like in a series of photographs. And Ondine, who was a Warhol superstar, started calling Andy Warhol Drella, which was a contraction of Dracula and Cinderella. And it was because Andy Warhol was like already a pale, pasty white man, and then he created this drag persona that was like a whiter, pastier, but like glamorous version, female version of that. And I was very fascinated with that. And then I was like, you know, drag performance or drag culture for me has always been performance. Like it's always been a show, you know, just because of my age. Like it's always been on TV. Like entertainment drag is like a lifestyle. And it was curious to me that for Christopher Makos and Andy Warhol, it was just a photograph. It was just a personality and a persona that could exist in a photograph.
And then it didn't continue into like show.
Yeah, it was just that. So apropos to my interest, which is like, let's do the thing that was never done. Like, what if? Like, I feel like my work is always like, what if? And so I thought, what if we gave Drella a lifestyle? What would that be? And also, what does that mean for like a Black queer performance artist to portray a white man being a whiter woman who is a contraction of like a rags to riches character, Cinderella, and then like a bloodsucker, like
What? That's so...
right, that's like come back from the dead. Like, what is all of that, and why am I interested in that, and why do I feel aligned with that vision? Like, I've always watched television as a child. Like, I sit in front of the TV when I was younger, and I would just repeat back everything the television said.
What were the shows?
Like, anything, like Turner Classic Movies, anything. Like, it was on, and I would just be like, no, I don't want to go. Yes, please. Like, whatever they said, like, anything that was on television, like, I would just repeat it back. I loved it. And to this day, I feel like, and with my partner, I'm often like, I'm so good at TV. Like, I can watch TV and I can just guess what's going to happen next. And not just like ideas, but like lines. Like, I'll watch TV and I'll be like, I'm not going with you. And then like, I'm not going with you. And I'm like, I'm so good at TV. I remember like when I was growing up, like Selena was really good.
Yes.
I also thought like Selena was a drag queen. Like I love Jennifer Lopez, and I'm sorry, Jennifer Lopez, but like somehow I was watching and I was like, I know that Selena's dead and that this Jennifer Lopez woman is not Selena, but like she's like, that must be a drag queen. Insert story. Sometimes we find answers. And then most times that gets completely blown apart. Like with this work, and many of the questions are the same questions for each piece. Sometimes I think that I'm doing something different. Like, oh, like let's explore this, and then I realize like, oh, I'm still figuring out some of the same things. Like I entered with one set of questions and we've gotten information about that, and then we've also realized that we're still circling back to this other question, which is like, what's real and what's not real, and how are we complicit in what's real and what's not real. And then it offers in the end a new set of questions to which, like, if we decide to make another piece, we're like, well, that's probably where we will start. So through we learn so much when we make a work about ourselves and about the people we're around, and we realize that we're creating an experience for people to do the same thing, to come in and question, and to come in and maybe find some answers and help us find some answers, or help us find the next set of questions. And also to challenge what's real and what's not real, and to reflect. You know, I think that's a Warholian philosophy that we think we're just like, we need to reflect what we're seeing in the world so that people can think they're once removed from it and then maybe they'll actually see it. So that's why a lot of our work is like, you know, like SNL, everyone knows SNL. So they're going to come to the show and they're going to expect very specific things. And then our job is to both give that to them and also thwart it to be something else that we might want to show them. And through audience participation, also have them show us things. You know, with our show before that, you know, Color Me Warhol, it was like, this is a chorus line. You know, we all know a chorus line, but here's like a version that we think Andy Warhol would have made, and then our version based on what we think Andy Warhol would have made based on the original version, which was a movie and also a stage play. Like, there's these layers of repetition, and then there's these lines of lineage, which it's like a chorus line is not different than American Idol or Top Chef. It's the same. You know, like over the course of time, that's just where it's become like people wanting to like, is it my turn? Like, here's my resume. Me, I want to be in front. I want to be the winner of 15 Minutes of Fame. Like, it's all the same. You know, I often do like the BuzzFeed quizzes. Like, I love doing quizzes. Like, why are Geminis the best sign in the world? I'm like, I'm a Gemini, let's find out. Like, you know, like, well, how does Mercury in retrograde like affect Geminis? Take this 10 things. Like, what's your like power color? I'm like, give me all the quizzes. And that's like,
tell everybody that like, no, I'm like,
yeah, not me. I took that quiz and that's not me. Yeah, like that's a great way to start the day. You know, to like take a quiz and you're like, okay, so BuzzFeed says that if I look at 10 people in the eye today for 5 minutes, like I'm going to have like the ultimate like life experience. Like, I don't know. So thinking about, so BuzzFeed, and then there's like 10 reasons why like Park Slope is the best place to live, 14 reasons why Geminis are the best sign, 19, you know. And I also believe that people feel that BuzzFeed is like a news source. You know, 17 things Trump did wrong yesterday morning, 55 reasons why Paul Ryan like can't look at anyone, you know. And I found it a little problematic. And this was confronted to me by a friend of mine, a very close friend, who asked me why I didn't make political work. And I was like, I do make political work. I just, anything that my shows are about, I'm not very much interested in like pointing to it. It's just there. I think there's a visual artist named Chris Martin, and he has a quote that's like, art is like the finger pointing to the moon, and the best art is when the finger disappears. And that's like, if I knew that there was a mural outside of this building, and I was like, hey, Emeri, like, I want to show you this mural. It's like the most beautiful thing in the world. Like, come with me, come look. And I'm like, isn't it beautiful? And you're like, yeah, I guess so, Raja. But like, you would maybe be like, you're so excited about it that I'm just gonna be like, yes, Raja, you're totally right. Like, it's totally beautiful, right? That's like one way. I could be like, hey, Emeri, like, take a walk with me. I just want to walk around the corner. And then we like walk around the corner, and you're like, Raja, have you ever seen this mural before? Like, it's so amazing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's so cool. And I've always known that it was there, right? So there's this difference between like, or maybe you're like, Raja, look at this flower patch. And then I've never seen this flower patch. And then I'm like, oh, I was too busy looking at that mural and I didn't see the flower patch, right? So like, I don't ever want to be the person that's like, hey, look at my experience. And like, I want you to see me jumping up and down, telling you like, look at the thing. I just want to like take you on a walk and like, maybe you'll see it. Maybe you don't, or maybe you'll see something else. In any case, so my friend was telling me like, you don't make political work. I'm like, I do make political work, but vis-a-vis that story. And, but it made me sad that there was no BuzzFeed article that was like, oh, here are like the like 10 black men who died today. You know, there's not a BuzzFeed article that would do that. Or like, here's like 10 reasons why like police brutality is like actually a bad thing. So I decided to make this work that appeared to be one thing, but was actually about another. Like, how to play with that. And I was really sad at the time, and I don't know why I was sad. And I realized that I was both sad about like the state of the world was just like in turmoil, and yet like people go to yoga and they breathe and they're like I feel better, like I can go out to the day, and like the piece like starts with a yoga class and everyone's like just like the world is on your shoulders, and like that's why we bend down, like yoga, breathe deep, like love life. And the show is like a repetition. It's like a list of 37 things to do. Like jump, use a bathroom, run in a circle, look at someone in the eye, like hand five. There's just like a list of things that we do over and over for an hour. And like it starts really fun, then we do it again and we get tired and it gets like more and more difficult to do it. And then it's like about the experience of like wanting to like just break out and like scream and yell from like the monotonous day-to-day living, like these lists and these quizzes. There was this online quiz in the New York Times called 36 Questions to Fall in Love, to which I remember going on a date with someone and asking them, a stranger, to do it with me. And we, yeah. Well, like there was this guy that I knew. I didn't know him very well, but I had a crush on him, and I was like, let's go on a date. And then we went on our first date, and I was like, let's do this quiz. Because like, I love you. I know I love you already. And I love quizzes. And I was like, let's do this 36 question quiz. And then like at the end of the night, we'll fall in love. It'll be amazing. And so we did that. We did the quiz. We stared at each other for 4 minutes. And then I went home and he went home.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. And so then I cried. And then I wrote down in my notebook like 37, right? Because there's 36 questions. So then I wrote down like 37 reasons to cry. And so I like, in this strange way of like feeling sad about like not having a connection with people and not like falling in love, and like being tricked by the media to think that there was like a shortcut, and then being upset with the media for not making me like as a black man feel important or valuable. Like this very strange wild about route to like making this piece that was about the lack of love in the world. In this conversation, I feel like we're at the point where we're like, your work is about everything always. And Tropico was my attempt to show that in some ways. It was like making a piece out of like making my own pop culture. Like with a chorus line, it's like it's a chorus line. A Color Me Warhol, it was a chorus line with another fucking Warhol production. It's SNL with another 37 Reasons to Cry. It's like these BuzzFeed things. With Tropico, like we created our own world and then tried to figure out like how do we create that world, and then how do we ask that world the same questions that we ask of the world that we actually live in. Mm-hmm. So it was like a very a part of that title was like, it's always everything. Like I think the full title of Tropico is like Tropico. Wait, we should find the real title. I can't even remember.
Zeitgeist, the falling man.
Yes, yes.
Oh wait, so Zeitgeist? Well, I can't put my words.
The full title of Tropico is called Zeitgeist, The Fall of Man, The Age of Desire, Adam and Steve in the Rite of Spring, Lana Del Rey's It's Always Everything, starring Allen Ginsberg as William Shakespeare, or The Greatest Story of Survival Ever Told. Like, that's the full title of Tropico. And that was us being like, how do we create our own world? Language, image, bodies, philosophy, law, and then dismantle it before the eyes of everybody. And with Tropico, I wrote this really long poem called Tropico. And that became like the graphic novel that was a part of Tropico. And so I wrote that poem, and then I wanted to create a solo that was a parallel to that epic poem. And then that solo was, we just kept using that solo and like deconstructing it and reconstructing it as the source material for all of the movement in the entire production. So all of the movement came from ideas of that one solo. We do that solo in the beginning, and then, you know, as we start to study the solo and then its relationship to the words, we start getting more devices for movement or more devices for scenes. Like, oh, this should be a scene. We should want to explain these words in this movement through a larger scene. Mm-hmm. And that's how we start to pack things and then unpack them to create what is a world. Yeah. So I grew up doing theater. Like, I liked doing theater and studying acting from like a very young age. Like I said, in front of the TV, like I was an actor always. And then when I went to the middle school, like middle school's not the same for everyone. Middle school for me was like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Same, okay. And in 7th grade, the high school comes to the middle school for one day only. And they do an assembly of like everything you can do when you get to high school. Like, there's like a presentation on math.
I feel like you have to make this show, though.
I do. For a very specific reason, too. So, like, they're like, you can join math club, or you can, like, be a football player, or you can do, like, this, like, an assembly. And then, like, one of the final things was, like, or you could join the dance team. It's, like, really not popular. And these 3 dancers from the high school did Bob Fosse's Steamed Heat, like, original choreography. And I literally was like, I will do that. Like, I am supposed to do that. Which is, like, something I've said to, I've, like, those words have come up into my life again. Like, we'll jump to, like, so that's, like, Raja in 7th grade. Like, when I was graduating college and I wanted to dance with Zoe Schofield and Juniper Shui, and I saw a performance of theirs, I went up to her and I was like, I'm supposed to do that. Which she laughed in my face and, like, didn't hire me for, like, a year later.
But then she did.
But she did, yeah. But she kind of laughed in my face and thought I was crazy valid. I'm like, I was like, I thought that I had choreographed her work when I first saw it. I was like, I made that already, so I should probably be in this company. A very weird feeling to have. But anyway, Bob Fosse, I was like, sorry, I think that Bob Fosse is, like, living inside of me because that feels like what I am supposed to do. That feels like me. It's a real thing.
Funny, like, Matthew, and I'm like, these are the jets people.
They're like,
and you were like,
yes! And then, like, the next day, like, I didn't even wait until I got to high school. Like, the next day, I went to, like, the dance club, and I was like, hi, I'm signing up. Was terrible. Awful. Just, like, a shitty bad dancer. Just, like, I didn't even know what. Like, I think they let me in because of, like, they're like, oh, well, you're a guy. Like, that's, like, a coveted thing to be in high school. And then, like, and I did know Bob Fosse. To this day, I have not danced Steamed Heat or have learned, like, Bob Fosse other than, like, me in my room in college, like, watching YouTube. So in high school, once I joined the dance team, I also was still doing theater. And I did every play and every musical, and I did every dance show. And on the weekends, I would compete. Like, I did speech and theater competitions. It was called forensics, which, like, many people don't know. Like, they're like, you competed in forensics, like forensic science. And I'm like, no, it's speech and debate. Like, speech and debate and theater. Like, I competed every weekend of high school. That every weekend. I was a national qualifier and I was a district champion. I have 2 banners. So in the school, like, when you make it to nationals, like, in high school, like, in the cafeteria, you get a banner. That's there forever. And so, like, once I got to high school, it's like, the only thing I need to do in high school is leave this cafeteria with a banner for being a national qualifier and a district champion. And I got both.
Are they still there?
And, like, they make them and they put your name on it and they say, like it says, like, Raja Kelly, district champion, dramatic monologue, and then, like, Raja Kelly, national qualifier duo with my friend Amber. Like, we did, like, a duo and we went to nationals. Very important to me. So anyway, that was Saturday. I also competed in dance competitions, like, alongside doing the theater competitions on the weekends. like Sundays probably or something. Like, so I was like doing both through high school. Wasn't until college where I was like, I have to decide. It was a very scary moment. So I applied to 6 colleges, 3 for theater and 3 for dance. I was like, I think I'm gonna dance. I had this thought. I was like, I still kind of want to be an actor. And I was like, you can't be 50 years old and decide like I'm gonna be a dancer. But you can be 50 years old and be like, I'm gonna be an actor. You can do that. Like you can study acting at 50 and have like get a role as like some old man. Like I could be 50 and like compete against Denzel Washington for a role. At that time, like I thought I would be like a ballet dancer or dance with like Cunningham or Forsyth. Like I just thought that. And I didn't study ballet. I'm terrible at ballet. So that's weird. But that's weird, but also like Drella was a Vogue ballet. Like this show, another fucking Warhol production, is like a post ballet production. Like I love my idea of what ballet is, not like any like
I'm getting
2 degrees. So I was like, okay, Connecticut, small school, private school, and like so pretty. And I'm like, I'm gonna get 2 degrees, and then I'm gonna go to grad school and like get my master's. Like I'm just gonna like I really like so I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna become a dancer. And I hadn't been dancing that long at that time. So I was like, I need dance credits. So that's when I chose. Like I really like marketing. I love Andy Warhol market. Like I love marketing. I like self-taught marketing. I never went to like a trade school. I just read a lot of marketing books. Um, and so arts admin started with like a lot of marketing, and then it became like logistics things. Like it's kind of my artistic side is very abstract, and so arts admin, like things that have grids and numbers and yes and no and that are color coded, it's grounding. So I started in college. One of my professors, Lisa Race, was like starting a dance company for herself at that time, and so I like at the beginning of a company, like her and I worked together to like figure out like what is a company manager, like what is arts administration, like from the beginning of a company. And I started doing that while I was still in college with her. Um, and that just kind of worked out. And then when I started working for Zoe Schofield, who laughed in my face when I told her I wanted to work with her. But then I like met her in Vienna one day and she took my class and was like, oh, like we've got some of the similar ideas. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying to tell you. And then we started working together and she needed a company manager. And so I was like, I will join your company as a dancer and as a company manager because I needed the salary because her work is in Seattle and I lived in New York and I was not moving to Seattle. So I worked for them for 3 years. Then I started working with Kyle Abraham, and he also needed like a company manager slash like marketing person. And so I started doing that for him. And like that was great. And then I started working with Reggie Wilson, and he also was like, we've never had a company manager before. And his company's like 25 years old when I joined. They had never had a company manager. And so every sort of job that I've had, I have entered into the company as both a dancer and a company manager. Score. Um, it is very important for me to be a dancer and a choreographer. I believe that that's how I learn about what I want to make and how to do that. I also feel that I really respect the people who work for me. And it's funny that I say it in that way because I often feel like I work for them. I feel like as the choreographer and director and writer that I am directing, choreographing, and writing for like the individuals who are in my company. Like I'm making work so that they can perform it. I'm working for them. And I think that has to do with like working with people who suck, like as a dancer, and being like, I don't want to ever be a choreographer or a director that sucks and that is mean and stupid. There's no reason for it. And so I feel lucky that I have both sides. Like, I give my dancers breaks. I ask them what they need. I recognize that it's not all about me all the time, and it's actually about them and caring for them so that I can get what I want. And I don't think that I would have learned that unless, or rather, I only learned that because I'm a dancer, and sometimes I'm like, I'm wanting to tell choreographers, like, it's not about you, and it's about me right now, and I need you to answer my question so that I can do the thing that you want. And I feel that it's empathy, like I feel that, and I wonder, like, oh, my dancers must be feeling the same way, and that's just something that's important to me, and I feel lucky. I feel like I get like both sides. Like I just get both sides. I feel like I know how to be a dancer for a choreographer, where I'm like, okay, this isn't about me right now. This is about you. I can just say yes. Like, yes, okay, fine. Like, do this better. Okay, fine. Like, just, you don't have to take anything personally. Like, this is you dealing with your thing because I know what it's like to deal with my thing. And so I like to think that I am a choreographer's dancer and I'm a dancer's choreographer. I just like trying to find the integrity of what that is and living that. I think auditioning is not really for auditions. I think people use audition for marketing. I think people use auditions to pretend. I don't know. It's very rare that I see an audition that feels or looks like it's actually because someone's looking for someone who they don't know. And I mean that like in our downtown dance community. I think like Broadway theater auditions are actual auditions, but I don't know, I see auditions happening and I'm like, what is this actually for? Are you really looking for someone? I went to an audition and I wanted to be a part of the company so bad. And I studied everything. I studied all of their work. I read everything that the choreographer talked about. I went to the audition and I fucking nailed that audition. Like they offered me the job before I left that audition. And then I was like, I don't want this job. I don't want this fucking job.
You just wanted to nail the audition?
No, what I realized was that they don't know anything about me. They know everything that I've learned in order for them to see me. Right. I was like, I just did things so that you would like me. Like I could see, I was watching the room. Like auditioning was like, I was looking at the room. I was like, what are the choices that everybody else is making? Make all of the opposite choices. I was like, oh, everyone's moving. I'm just going to stand fucking still. I was like, oh, he said this. No one heard him say that. I'm going to do that thing. Like it was just this psychological game that I was playing in the audition, and it wasn't me. I was like, I'm actually like wild and crazy, and I like going nuts. I'm not like this like quiet little like devilish character that I'm playing in this audition that I know that you like. I don't like classes that are like warm-up phrase material. I just don't like that. It feels like an audition, or it feels like a performance where people are there just to sort of like, or like exercise. And I particularly don't have an interest in that. Like I go to the gym to exercise and I make work to perform. And so I like to think about my teaching as a contribution, as like I'm doing research on the body and on performance and on ideas, and teaching is a way for me to share that with people and have them a part of that research. And it is sometimes difficult to people to get dancers interested in doing that. A lot of dancers say that they're interested in doing that, but then kind of feel like if they're not gonna sweat and feel like they're getting a workout, then they're not interested in doing it, or if they have to do too much thinking. And then there's a great deal of dancers who do want that. It's just challenging. They're like, the time doesn't work, it's too expensive. So teaching is hard and it's competitive because we're all thinking, I just want to teach, but I also have to make this worth my while. And to do that, I have to market to get students to come to take my class because I'm going to get paid by the number of people who show up, and the organization is requiring me to do that. Like, don't get me wrong, I love money, I like making money, but when it comes to my art, there's things that like integrity needs to stay strong. Yeah. And teaching is one of them. It's like I would love if our focus is on the integrity of this class and people understanding that, and that many people are inspired by that, and so they come, and the benefit to that is that they're going to pay for it.
In the next little while.
I would really like for performance to become like experimental performance and dance and theater making to reclaim its purpose in New York City, in the East Coast, in the North American hemisphere, in the world, in the universe, you know, like micro, macro. I really, I think that, and this is kind of in direct competition with the work that I make, is where I feel like entertainment is kind of pushing us out. And I want us to rise up and take reign and hold our crown and our scepter and remind people of the importance and the power and the possibility of art and art making and how that encompasses everything. We all know that, but there are lots of people that don't know and or remember and or understand that. How I do that, I don't know. I'm hoping that like the path of what that is gets carved out, and I hope that people continue to take me and my work seriously because I take it seriously. And the idea of having integrity and doing that is very important to me, and I think about that every day. Like, be the model. You know, like, my philosophy is, like, be the art you want to see in the world. Like, be the person you want to see in the world. Be the partner you want to see in the world. Be the business you want to see in the world. So, like, that's the only way I think I can do anything is, like, by being it.